Elon Musk and the DOGE bros want to burn USAID to the ground, but is it worth keeping? Welcome to America Uncovered. I'm Chris Chappell. The fate of the world is at stake, and it all hinges on USAID. Yes, I found out it's pronounced like that and not USAID. A $40 billion humanitarian aid agency that practically nobody knew existed until Elon Musk and his DOGE bros effectively shut it down. So is Musk a harbinger of death? Don't think we can blame this one on Asperger's. Seriously, people are saying he's condemning the poorest to suffering and death, putting global US leadership and health at risk, and pretending to be a Bond villain. Oh, I get it. The Cybertruck makes sense now. He's an N64 GoldenEye Bond villain. Or maybe Musk's not destroying lives, he's actually saving lives. It's USAID that's evil, not Musk. There's no middle ground, it's one or the other. USAID is a radical left political psyop, a viper's nest of radical left Marxists who hate America, and a funder and source of chaos that brings about death and anarchy. It's nothing more than a front for the CIA to stir unrest. Ha! Welcome to political discourse in 2025. And that was actually some of the more nuanced takes you'll find on social media. So, what on earth is really going on? Well, it all started when Trump first took office and signed executive orders to cut federal spending waste and what he calls woke ideology, like DEI. Since then, foreign assistance has been frozen, causing thousands of USAID contractor and employee layoffs in addition to programs being shut down. It was during this time that Musk said he and Trump would shut down the agency. Thank you, elected Representative Musk. Musk calls USAID criminal and says it has to die. And Musk isn't alone in his criticism. Secretary of State Marco Rubio also criticized USAID before he merged the agency with the State Department and assumed the position of acting USAID chief. He said he had no choice but to bring USAID under control due to rank insubordination. Trump himself criticized USAID, saying they went totally crazy what they were doing and the money they were giving to people that shouldn't be getting it and to agencies and others that shouldn't be getting it. It was a shame. So a tremendous fraud. They turned out to be radical left lunatics. I feel like the only people in the world left are lunatics. So some people hate USAID like they're the government equivalent of Nickelback. But why? Well, Trump and Musk question whether USAID is actually helping America, even though it makes up less than 1% of the federal budget. Now, you could argue that Americans have a vested interest in making the rest of the world a better place, especially when the likes of China are trying to buy up influence. But there's a lot of things people consider wasteful, or at least very questionable. For example, a good portion of that $17 billion the U.S. spent in Afghanistan was from USAID. On things like helping the Taliban raise money through opium. Boy, Afghanistan is the dumpster fire that just keeps on giving. Lots of organizations accused of being connected to terror finance have gotten support from USAID. Oh, and let's not forget EcoHealth Alliance, the same people who were doing gain-of-function research on coronaviruses at the Wuhan Institute of Virology in China. According to The Intercept, USAID gave them more than $53 million. Well, there's nothing bad that happened, especially in a lab. The science is settled. And is it really necessary for USAID to fund the BBC? Especially when American companies like PBS and NPR are constantly harassing me for donations? Wow, according to the BBC, USAID is the second largest donor. Way to go, America. Some people have forgotten the War of 1812. But I haven't. Also, why give money to the World Economic Forum? Like, really? Is it for all these poor men in Davos? But what's really angering people is the way USAID funds left-wing woke ideologies, especially DEI. This includes, and look, normally I provide a punchline after each of these, but making fun of them would somehow make them seem less satirical. Case in point, $1.5 million to advance DEI in Serbia, $70,000 for a DEI musical in Ireland, $47,000 for a transgender opera in Colombia, $32,000 for a transgender comic book in Peru, and millions more on sex changes and LGBTQ activism, like teaching journalists to state pronouns and avoid binary gendered language. So the new rule in journalism is who, what, where, when, why, and how do you identify? Now you might be thinking that's just a tiny fraction of what USAID funded. But what's interesting is how ideology seeped into everything USAID was funding, even humanitarian work. So much so, USAID integrated LGBTQ inclusion into its development work and put attention to LGBTQ issues into its operational policies and procedures, which in practice meant that those receiving aid had to go along with left-wing ideology even if they didn't like it. Don't worry, Taliban, there's always that sweet opium money. It was a simple choice. Teach LGBTQ ideology or lose the money. The same thing went for abortion. I imagine a lot of the aid recipients had a hard time coming to term on these terms, on not coming to term. The U.S. has a long history of using overseas aid to promote ideological agendas. That, plus USAID's shady history of regime change, destabilization, and censorship made many feel that its closure is justified. But as much as people like to paint USAID in the most negative light possible, USAID has done quite a bit of good. Remember, kids, nuance exists. Nothing is as black and white as Obama's parents. USAID has been countering malaria across dozens of countries in sub-Saharan Africa and Southeast Asia. Not to mention cholera, tuberculosis, malnutrition, neglected tropical diseases, HIV and AIDS, and much, much more, when it's not involving politics. It's been fighting practically every disease known to man, except Hulkamania, which is still running wild, brother. It's also been helping with the development of new life-saving drugs. Now, one could argue that USAID is just throwing money at problems, but there are some actual tangible results. For example, through the President's Malaria Initiative, USAID helped more than 700 million people in 2023 alone. And since 2006, it has reduced malaria case rates by 29% and death rates by 48%. So take that, mosquitoes. The only thing I hate more than them are the Brits for the War of 1812, never forget. USAID was critical in eliminating polio and was a partner in eliminating meningitis, potentially preventing 1 million cases. It also helped the likes of South Korea, going from a third world country to being the first world powerhouse it is today. USAID also helps displaced refugees and aids in natural disaster responses. As a matter of fact, many health systems around the world depend on USAID. Now, that's not to say that USAID is full of angels. There's definitely been some bad, potentially opium-laced apples. It's also not to say that USAID always got stellar scores. Former USAID administrators say USAID is failing to generate rigorous evidence on which of its programs do or do not work. And by USAID's own admission, its evaluation reports are no reason for celebration, as most didn't meet program expectations. So is USAID just beyond repair? Is it just causing more problems than solving them? Do U.S. taxpayers have any obligation to finance health initiatives around the world? The bigger problem is people's trust in all kinds of institutions is in the dumps. Media, government, you name it. And when Americans hear of wasteful spending of their tax dollars, well, a lot of people just think their money would be better off in their own pockets. For you kids watching, back in the day, we used to have physical currency that we would keep in our pockets. You kids still have pockets, right? There's been a steady decline in pockets ever since cargo shorts went out of fashion. I'm just kidding. Cargo shorts never went out of fashion. News is happening fast.
It's been an incredible breakneck pace of activity.
I'm doing my best to keep up and bring you nuanced and fun episodes. We're having fun, right? But I need your help. I need coffee so I can stay up all night reading hundreds of pages of White House memos to make these episodes. So subscribe to our new premium website, AmericaUncovered.tv. It's just the price of a bag of coffee. You can click on this button that's been on screen. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. Thank you for watching America Uncovered.